In this episode of our CEO series, I had the pleasure of sitting down with Christopher Zaka, CEO of the Sagicor group of companies. It was an amazing conversation, one that I found great value in. We started by just getting into a little bit of who he is, his history, his journey to being CEO of the group. We then spoke about the Sagicor group of companies, right? Companies that they've acquired recently or companies that they've started. So we spoke about Sagicor investments in Cayman. We spoke about Advantage General. We spoke about Alliance Financial Services, their strategy in terms of being a company that embraces digital while seeking to ensure that they have a wide footprint, many of the opportunities that they see in the market, and ways in which they are seeking to improve shareholder value. We close out the interview, of course, with hearing about his investment philosophy, how he makes investment decisions, how he looks at his portfolio at his particular age and stage. And so it's one that I know that you'll find great value in. Be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you at the end of the interview. Hi, Chris. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Jermaine. Thanks. It's great to be here.
Awesome. So how would you describe yourself? Who is Chris Zaka?
I'm a Jamaican. I am first and foremost about building Jamaica and building the businesses that I've led and my family. That's who I am. I value integrity, I value transparency, and I value good governance.
Right. Awesome. In terms of your journey to Sagicor Group CEO, how would you describe that journey? What would have been the highlights or maybe some key milestones along the way that that you would reflect on at this point?
I really old because it started, a long time ago in the 80s at Red Stripe, then on Gettys at the time. And I was the youngest ever vice president. I was an engineer at the time because I had a background in mechanical engineering from MIT and an MBA. And left there and became an executive. I joined Butch Stewart's group in 91 and led Carol Brake as a CEO, then moved on to ATL, moved on to all of the Sandals ATL groups, non-hotel businesses, leading it. Went to Air Jamaica for 7 years. Left Air Jamaica, went back to the head office. Did my own thing for a while, started a couple businesses with some people, then went to be an advisor to the government, to the Prime Minister of the day, who was Bruce Golding, for a couple of years. And I have always said that joining Sagicor would be my first foray into financial services and round out my career. I've been in, media. I was deputy chairman of the Observer. Export, manufacturing, commerce, retail, etc. I've been in everything, and it's in my view, a nice end to my career is the financial service sector. I've been enjoying it tremendously for the past 7 years.
Awesome. So you mentioned something that made me curious just now. You mentioned you started a couple of businesses. Anything that you'd like to mention here?
No, not really. I've started 3 businesses in my career. One of them was when I was working for a company early in my career, and that did very well. The next one was when I left the government, and my partner and I, he led the business and did well, and I eventually sold out to him, and he has done amazingly well. And the third one didn't do so well, post government too. I spent a lot of time leading the PSOJ in my career. I've had 5 years of leadership there, split into 2 different terms. And I spent a lot of time focusing on national development and also private-public partnership. So that took up a bit of my time too.
Yes, I imagine so. Serving in that way, I'm sure, has been, well, from my limited experience, can be both fulfilling and exhausting in terms of it
It
feels
is
like the work is
extra.
never done, and yet you feel, you try to hold on to the accomplishments that you've, been able to have. But it's so interesting. I served briefly as president of the student council. I've done different volunteer stints, and it's one of those things that I look back and I'm thinking, I could always do more, but then how do you measure success and keep going? So
I've always said that leadership of broad-based organizations is a thankless job, but the only way you remain sane is to don't look at what you have not accomplished, but look at what you have accomplished.
yes, agreed, 100%. How would you, well, what or who has been your biggest influence in terms of your leadership style?
Well, I will say that I've been very fortunate in my career to have been at the knees or on my, at the feet of two of who I would consider Jamaica's most uh, successful and transformational leaders. But it would have started, in my view, in terms of molding me as a person and a leader with my father, who was the former Chief Justice of Jamaica. And he instilled in me the value of ethics and integrity that has kept with me my entire career. But then I'm talking now about Butch Stewart, who I was with for many years in his organization. Carbreak, ATL, Observer, Air Jamaica, Sandals, etc. He's legendary. He's Jamaica's, I think, most successful entrepreneur and has built what I would think is the biggest global brand, Sandals, that has come out of the Caribbean. And I learned so much from him about just taking risk and believing in people, because that was, very important in his organization, that he trusted certain people and he allowed them to do what they had to do. Then coming to Sagicor, Danny Williams, who is legendary in terms of his building of the life insurance industry, his national leadership, his relationship building, etc. Super salesman. Both of them were actually super salesmen, but in different ways. So I think my father and Butch and Danny would have really molded me into who I am today as a leader.
Great. That's amazing. I've heard good things about Butch Stewart as well. I never had the privilege of meeting either him or Danny Williams. At something that I've just heard great things about them. I wanted to talk to you a bit about Sagicor Group, right? A lot of companies, a lot of moving parts, etc. How would you describe what sets Sagicor apart from other companies who they may be competing against?
Well, I'm biased, so I think we're the best. What sets us apart? I think our culture. For us it is integrity, governance, and valuing our clients' um, well-being, making sure we protect their investments, whether it be in a life insurance policy or a bank account or a credit card or a repo or a piece of real estate. We put the client first and foremost, and the internal culture is one of performance based, but with a balance on work life balance and wellness. We treat everybody as part of one big family. We have 2,500 people. And, if you have ever attended a Sagicor staff event or team event, such as our Blast staff in January, where we had over 2,000 people in the sports arena, and it was just electric in terms of the motivation, in terms of the whole energy of the room, etc. And I think we spend a lot of time on team engagement, and this is coming from Danny Williams, who founded Life of Jamaica. That whole culture of rewarding and recognizing performance, as well as that work-life balance and encouraging work hard, play hard, that kind of environment. That is kind of what defines us.
How do you strike that balance between working hard, being a high performer and having that balance, not necessarily work-life balance, but having, I guess, overall health?
Well, on a broad basis, we promote wellness throughout our organization as well as with our clients as the largest health insurer. It is certainly in our interest and in a national interest that we promote wellness. Internally in the group, we really, first of all, we stress the importance of taking leave, and we manage that as carefully as possible, that people do take at least a certain amount of leave at every level. I think that's extremely important, both from allowing others to flourish in the organization as well as your own mental and physical health. We protect our relationships internally through many just meetings discussing how we are, what we're doing, making sure everybody remains connected. And of course we encourage small groups to get together, to leave the office and have a meal, or for example a department to go to the country and spend a day in a retreat, that kind of stuff. And we bring in experts to talk to our team, sometimes the entire team, sometimes groups, on health, on financial wellness, mental. During Mental Health Week, we have a number of seminars, etc. And I could go on and on. We bring in physical dietitians, etc., to speak to the team. It goes on and on.
All right, that I do say that I can see just from past experience with Sagicor, it has a very unique culture. I've had my brother used to work for Sagicor. I believe my sister at one point. I'm trying to remember, but I know that Sagicor is one of those companies that does seem to attract really great talent. So clearly something that you're doing is working. So, definitely kudos to you there.
Thank you.
In terms of your financial performance, what would you say are some of the key drivers for that?
I mean, we can talk about 2023, which was a difficult year for the industry. Couple of headwinds. One is a transition of life insurance to a new accounting standard, which had the possibility of impacting our short-term earnings in a considerable way. That's called IFRS 17. We successfully implemented it and have produced our first audited accounts under that new standard. And the insurance company ended up doing very well. That was around core business, good sales, good conservation, making sure that we tweaked products to make them as profitable as possible while still retaining value add for the client. And on the banking side, higher interest rates, less liquidity. That was a headwind that affected in particular our investment bank, Sagicor Investments. But overall, when you added it all up, I always say that Sagicor is so diverse, Sagicor Jamaica, that as one side of the business may have a headwind, such as interest rates. Another side, such as the insurance side, does very well, and it all balances out, swings and roundabouts. So we ended up 2023 with, I think, a creditable performance of a bottom line of 14.4 billion, and I'm so proud of the team because I promise it took a lot of effort and a lot of work to deliver those results in a year such as 2023 for us.
Yeah, so I did. So I wanted to ask you how so 2020 no doubt would have changed the complexion of a lot of businesses, right? So how do you see the company, I guess, pre-pandemic and then post-pandemic?
Yeah, so it has really been how many years? 2021, 4 years of significant, I would say, challenges. First with COVID, then clearly high inflation, global uncertainty with politics, with conflicts in various places in the world, inflation, interest rates starting to go up. Easy money was stopped because there was a lot of spending by governments in COVID, and that had to be reined in by central banks. So we've faced 4 tough years. What we did is we learned to be nimble. We learned to be able to, and I think I'm sick of hearing the word pivot, but we did pivot, and we ensured that we kept the team together during COVID. We had technology was employed more and more, and we've continued that journey. I would say the lessons we have learned is keep close with the team, keep them together, and find ways to be nimble and to adjust to whatever headwinds face you.
Has there been any, and I know that this may be a difficult thing to do, but has there been any positive changes coming out of the pandemic for the company, for the group?
Yes, I would say, as kind of a non sequitur as it is, that the positive changes I see is a real recognition that digitalization is not a nice to have, it's a must have. We have a multi-year roadmap that we are well along now, and that really started during COVID in earnest and has accelerated in the last year and a half to 2 years. The other thing I would say is the importance of keeping your team motivated and together in the most difficult times. And even in great times, it's a valuable lesson that we have learned. We have, a real significant and deep leadership development program, which touches all of our executives at the current time. We have many team development courses, etc., to improve the performance of our team and their own sense of well-being and self-esteem. So I think that came out of COVID. It accelerated out of COVID.
Okay. So you mentioned previously that you've experienced some headwinds in terms of your investment banking sector. How has it been trending and performing for this year that we're in currently?
Well, it's early times, but we have seen improvement. I would say the environment that supports investment banking, there's a lot more, potential corporate deals on the table. There's a lot of us fighting for them, but we have a pipeline that I think is much better than it was this time last year. And also we've been rebalancing our balance sheet to improve our net interest income, and that is paying off.
So you made recent investments in Sagicor Cayman. How has that been since, I believe it was started last year? How has that been going?
Sagicor Investments Cayman is a new investment for us. It really got off the ground in 22, and it really started to accelerate in 23. It's still nascent, it's small, but it has been doing much better than budgeted, and we see a lot of potential for growth in Sagicor Investments Cayman around high net worth persons throughout the Caribbean and in other jurisdictions, as well as the ability to do deals which expand beyond Jamaica's shores. So we are very optimistic and positive about that investment.
I'm glad you said that, because I was wondering if the plan is to maybe have other investment banking companies in other countries, or do you plan to maybe use Cayman as a point to serve multiple jurisdictions, or what would you say is the long-term plan for that?
A bit of both. We're looking to other jurisdictions that we could expand our investment banking. I don't want to speak too much about that, but certainly our insurance business has a Latin American strategy. We've just entered Panama. We've been doing pretty well in Costa Rica. We have partners that are part of our Latin American expansion. We're 50-50 a major Latin American bank called Bank of America. And, clearly where insurance goes, there's opportunities to move other parts of the business.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. I wanted to talk a bit about Alliance Financial Services. So it's been, a year post acquisition. How has it been performing? Has it been according to your expectations?
It's almost 2 years. It's amazing how time flies. So when we acquired Alliance, it was completely shut down, and we had lost a lot of our sub-agents. Happy to say that over the past year and a half, we've rebuilt that network. It's now as robust as it was pre-shutdown. It had been closed down for regulatory reasons, and the owners, we were successful in acquiring it from the then owners. And the team has worked well. Omar Brown is a young fellow that came up through our bank, was head of treasury at Sagicor Bank, and is an expert in foreign exchange, which is the core of Alliance's business, and an expert in relationships, which is the core of the sub-agent relationship with Alliance. Last year it did okay. It did okay, and we expect a great year this year.
Sorry, do you want to expand on what a great year would mean? Is there any particular percentage growth you're looking towards, or you don't want to give away too much right now?
No, I don't want to give away too much. Alliance, the foreign exchange market was pretty volatile last year in 23. When I say volatile, it didn't have a predictable path, so there was ups and downs, although the average remained the same. So it created some challenges, but they have some financing strategies that will allow them to hedge, and I think they'll have a great year.
Okay. There was mention of a bill payment platform. What's the progress on that?
About to be launched, with the new data privacy legislation, which by the way, we are fully compliant. Well, we have in place all the pieces to be compliant with, and we have, the government has delayed the implementation of the data privacy law, but we are ready to go. And that's an aside though, but with data privacy, the utilities that participate in bill payments had to review all of their legal framework around signing agreements with new players such as Alliance. But we've signed on the big ones, and I think we're almost ready to go.
Okay. How do you see yourself leveraging digital services for the remittance business, right? Because we've seen some of your competitors, for example, launch debit cards and other services. So how do you see, I guess, further developments helping you be more competitive in that space?
Yeah, we have to be in that space, and we are about to launch a prepaid debit card, as you have said, as well as other strategies around digital payments. But there is a short term and a long term, and digital remittances are growing, but still the bulk of the business is traditional remittance business. And I think we have a two-pronged strategy to be omni-channel. So if you want to go and get your cash, you get it. If you want to get it directly to your card, you get it. And I think that drives a lot of our digital strategies across the group, across our businesses, banking, insurance, investments. We're omni-channel. The client, determine how you want to access our goods and services. And we are there, and we can scale up or scale down depending on how the market moves and how the clients, how the client segments change over time. Because for sure, one thing is very clear, is that tomorrow will not be the same as today.
Agreed. I wanted to talk a bit about the banking side. So you'd have mentioned at your most recent AGM that the loan portfolio growth was about 17%. Again, I know it's still maybe early, but how do you see things progressing for this year, and what's the outlook in terms of growing that side of the business?
So the Sagicor Bank Jamaica has done well, 3 or 4 years in a row, even in difficult times. And we expect that growth to continue this year. We are looking to deposit and loan growth in excess of just the general average growth in the economy, well in excess. And we plan to do that through relationships, through providing amazing service. Its tagline, the bank's tagline is "We're in your corner," and we really are. And yeah, there are hiccups, there are ups and downs. Nobody loves banks, but we're hoping that people love our bank more than they love others. And we have an aggressive and optimistic budget. So look out for more of the same, in my view.
Okay. So I do remember a time when there was heavy push to, for example, with your POS system for small businesses to get, there seemed to have been a time where there was like just a push for digital service and, so on. What would you say in terms of having things in place like a mobile app or maybe e-commerce payment services, just, I guess, growing in terms of the digital service and offerings from the banking perspective? How would you say, where are you with that now, and how do you see things progressing for that area?
Right. Well, Jermaine, that would take a whole interview by itself, to be honest with you, because we have so many active projects right now. We have an agile structure in terms of our digital development, and we have a number of agile labs which are solely dedicated to Sagicor Bank and banking. I can really, without revealing too much that's not public information, publicly available, I could speak to the fact that we're in the process of developing a digital wallet, which would be able to house many payment systems, cards, CBDC, prepaid cards, credit cards, etc., bank accounts. And we're looking at a number of digital offerings around loan origination, and I could go on and on and on, but there is a full digital strategy at Sagicor Bank Jamaica. We've just soft opened, and it's doing very well, and we'll do a grand opening shortly. Our bank we have done a real estate development which is about to be completed in Brunswick Avenue in Spanish Town, called New Brunswick. It's commercial space and it's residential space. I think it's about 12 acres. And Sagicor Bank has their new branch there, which is what our CEO, Chauvel Johnson Cunningham, calls Phygital, P-H-Y, Phygital, meaning both physical and digital. So you can onboard yourself digitally there. You have smart ABMs, but of course you have the traditional services too. And that's kind of, I would suppose, a beacon of where Sagicor Bank is going to go. We still want to serve our clients wherever and however they want. We are looking at improving we have a very robust e-commerce platform which businesses can access to take e-commerce payments, and we provide those services. We're improving those, and we're looking at also improving all our offerings. Our POS machines, I think, are the best on the market now, and our competition is rushing to catch up by acquiring similar machines. And we're growing. We have a big partnership with PriceSmart, which was launched last year, I think, or late 22, and that is growing also. So across the board, digital is a big part of Sagicor Bank.
Does that partnership with PriceSmart only based in Jamaica, or it extends to other countries that PriceSmart is in?
So for now, it's only in Jamaica. If there are opportunities in other jurisdictions, certainly we'd look at them. But for now, it's only Jamaica.
Okay. What would you say would be the future of banking, right? Because we've seen some changes in the most recent years with the pandemic, sure, but then we also see slowly customers moving back to the old ways. So what would you say, take us maybe 10 years into the future? What do you see as the future for banking in general and Sagicor Bank's role in that?
My view is that there will be the need for physical services for quite some time to come, but that clearly the shift will be from physical to digital over time. As to when that becomes purely digital, that will be long after I retire in my view. We have seen banks internationally, as you say, go fully digital and then start to come back to somewhat of a mix. One of our big competitors had a big digital push in banking, and I think recently I've kind of said, well, let's pause and let's look at the most, clients. How do we best serve our clients? Because at the end of the day, without them, we are nothing. We have never paused. We have always taken the view that, yes, we push digital. We have a number of streams existing. That takes time, takes a lot of money, but we're investing in it. But at the same time, we're able to use an omni-channel distribution to reach our clients. So if you want to roll your wheelchair up to a bank branch, or you want to walk into, our bank in Mandeville, you can. And we're not closing branches. We're adding a couple branches in very selective and strategic locations. Because when you're an advantage of being small, which we are, we're the third most profitable bank, but by a far way from the top two. And, the advantage of being small is that you can, be very selective in how you grow your distribution.
Do you think that in terms of banking, I'm asking this because I'm curious in terms of how we've seen on one side, I guess if there's a push for digital, online, all of those services, it increases the risk in terms of cybersecurity. And then, of course, on the other side, you're saying, well, the traditional way may not seem the most effective, right? So do you think we'll ever get to a place where we maybe just abandon? Because I'm not even sure what I'm asking you, honestly. I'm trying to frame it in my head, but I think I'm saying, do you see it ever really being something that makes sense to go digital, bearing in mind the threats that are there, as the need for convenience and maybe flexibility, maybe customers wanting to work or get services in other countries? How do you, I guess, strike that balance between being digital, efficient, versus, being able to meet the clients where they are?
So your discomfort in the question is our team's discomfort in how we move, because really you're trying to, walk and chew gum at the same time. I think I'll just repeat what I said. Our approach is to be as efficient as possible, redesign processes, use digital wherever possible to improve efficiencies, and allow our clients to access our services, our banking services digitally if they wish, and then be able to pivot, if for example 10-20% is digital now and moves to 60 or 80 in the next few years, we're ready. Everything we do is about our client. Every single thing. It's about trying to improve how they access our services in a painless way, and to ensure that we are there for them in their corner. That is what we're about at Sagicor Bank Jamaica. And I think that's what we're about at Sagicor Group Jamaica, across life insurance, investments, banking, real estate, pension management, etc.
Okay.
Not to mention general insurance and remittances and payment services.
Okay. Yes.
We did a kind of competitive comparison the other day for our board retreat, and listed all the various possible financial services. And we were the only one who ticked every single box of our
That's awesome.
competitors.
Yeah. I do think Sagicor is in a good position. I focus mainly on the investment side. So I've seen, for example, the offers you brought to market, the platform that you use on the investment side. I see tremendous opportunity for Sagicor. As I said, I've had family that worked at Sagicor, so I kind of understand things from that side. And so I've always thought Sagicor is in a very unique position to do uh, a lot of things. I guess my focus was, I guess, to try to see what do you focus on doing really well versus what you maybe just want to maintain a presence in, and say, if there's opportunity, maybe you'll go forward and just kind of observe the strategy, so to speak, from afar.
Well, I don't know if I've confused you, but I think I'm very clear about our strategy as it relates to rolling out digital services. It's a must. We have huge investments in that. We have significant amount of human resources and money dedicated to it over the next X years. We actually have a 4 year to 3 to 5 year roadmap on transforming our insurance business digitally. That's our biggest business. And that is aligned with our sister companies in the Caribbean. So we're working closely together. And that again is a major project and will, make it less painful to deal with insurance and also ensure that our back of house administrative processes are seamless, efficient, and create the least amount of pain for our team and the least amount of pain or no pain for our clients. So I think our strategy is omni-channel, and it is to be nimble and be able to scale up or scale down as necessary.
Yes, I'm clear. I wasn't confused. I was just saying that you're in a great position to be able to take advantage of multiple opportunities. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and you're perfectly right. I think the future is bright. I think we have a great team, and I think we have the investment and infrastructure to really take advantage of opportunities as things develop in the world, as things develop in what our clients want, etc. Technology, new technologies. I mean, AI is clearly something that may change the entire way businesses operate, and we just have to be prepared and invest in our people, invest in our processes, invest in our um, knowledge base and our digital infrastructure. And it takes a lot of work, so that work-life balance is important too.
Yes, agreed. I wanted to talk as well about Advantage General. How has the integration been going in terms of integrating the two companies?
It's been going well. We are pretty seamless when it comes to integration. The teams, Advantage team and the rest of Sagicor Group Jamaica are very integrated. We provide a number of services, shared services for Advantage, and I think it's going very well. It's a business that was profitable and mature, so we don't want to tinker with it too much from imposing things on it that is not suited to it. But it's now pretty much integrated into our structure, and you know the general insurance business had a tough year last year. Advantage General was profitable, but faced the headwinds of increasing rates on property insurance from a reinsurer's lack of reinsurance capacity. We didn't suffer from that because we were able to sign reasonable reinsurance deals and get capacity for reinsurance last year. This year again is going to be that's kind of what it's about, making sure you're premiums are, are of enough value that you cover your costs. And that cost is heavily around reinsurance and property insurance. Our motor book remains very strong. We have, a motor policy portfolio that is targets less risky aspects of the motor population. And I would say our motor portfolio is strong and profitable. So I'm looking forward to a good year this year and increased improvements each year.
Okay, you did mention previously the impact of the new IFRS 17, or the way in which you're able to now, register certain expenses. Do you see that? What impact do you see that having on this year's performance, specifically for motor and property premiums?
So IFRS 17 has very little impact on general insurance, because the main change with IFRS 17 on insurance financials is that in the past you used to recognize the profit on a policy today for the life of the policy. 17 says that you have to take onto your balance sheet that estimated profit, but you don't recognize it one time, recognize it over a period. And that has a much bigger impact on long-term insurance, which our individual life insurance segment is based on. But on general insurance, that's annually renewable policies, so there's very little impact.
When I was doing some research for this interview, I noticed that a very short while ago you were actually number one in terms of your market cap, and I believe you were discussing something similar at your recent AGM. And you've fallen a bit from number one in terms of market cap. How do you see yourself being able to get back to that number one slot?
So, I haven't checked, but I know as of December 31st, 23, we were number one. I haven't run the numbers, yes. But we're not focused on that, Jermaine. That is primarily around our steadiness, our growth, and maybe one of our competitors not doing as well as they were in the past. But that can change. In the stock market, you have a trade of 1 million shares, and it can change that one way or the other. So we're not focused on that. But it's nice to be number one. I wouldn't tell you a lie. If even for a period. You obviously have done the numbers, and you're saying we're not number one today. I'm not sure about that, but I'll take your word for it. But it really don't mean, it's really bragging rights, and we made our December 31st, we bragged. But okay, our focus is on delivering long-term value for our shareholders, dividends, consistent dividends. We have missed a dividend, even in COVID, even when the government, the central bank restricted dividend payments by financial groups. We certainly paid dividends to all of our shareholders, up to those who had over 1%. That was held, but that was eventually paid out. When I say eventually, pretty shortly paid out, and we have missed that. So long-term value, dividend yield, and share price steady growth. Tough years, high interest rates, liquidity shortages, lack of corporate deals, those things tend to depress the financial sector's performance in terms of the stock market. High interest rates affects all stocks. So, but in the long run, you have the right color on. I like your Sagicor shirt.
I actually do want to talk to you about dividends. I'm a big dividend investor, and I actually aggressively look for growing dividend yields as a sign that a company is committed to returning value to its shareholders. So I do note that you did mention and have mentioned previously your commitment to paying dividends. How do you treat with the need, because in this climate we're seeing not so much in terms of cap gains, in terms of stock prices growing at the same pace they were pre-pandemic. So how do you balance, giving investors more dividends versus maybe reinvesting that capital?
Well, we have a dividend policy and we've tried to stick by it. Pandemic slowed that a bit, but we're pretty much back to policy, I expect, this year. So we start with that and we ensure that we are not underinvesting in the business. So it's a balance. And I would say our major shareholders recognize the need for that balance. But the management is committed to meeting our dividend policy and to do both, invest in the business, because the policy does not preclude, the policy allows more than enough to reinvest in the business. Let's put it that way. So I think we're on good ground. I think as a shareholder of Sagicor, you can be confident that in the long run, it'll be one of the best stocks you can invest in.
Okay. So any comments or thoughts on the performance of the other Sagicor listed companies, or companies like maybe X Fund, Select F, Select MD? I know that's not really the focus of this conversation, but I think our community would want to at least hear your thoughts on the performance of those companies as well.
Well, first of all, they're not on our balance sheet, and X Funds is actually a completely separate company now. Through our property services, we are the management company for X Funds. So the better it does is the better we do. In terms of our management fee structure. Select is really mirroring the stock exchange. If as the stock exchange goes, so does Select. We have a number of strategies to improve the performance of Select in terms of its stock price, but not prepared to share those right now. And X Fund, we have actually 2 new board members, Mr. Howard Mitchell, who is a very well-known businessman and business leader in the country, and Mr. John Bailey. Those were elected to the board recently and were announced to the stock exchange. John Bailey is a very savvy real estate developer and investor. And I think there's a lot of room for growth and positive outlook on X Fund going forward.
Okay, fair enough. I can tell you, though, there is great interest in hearing from Sagicor specifically about Select F and Select MD. I've gotten countless questions about it. So at the point that you're ready to share maybe some of those strategies, or a member of the Sagicor team is able to speak on it, I'd be very interested in having that conversation, because it is something that it is something that is discussed heavily in our groups, and something that we're interested to see maybe if there's a strategy even in the composition of the funds, to see if maybe it can be weighted a little differently to maybe improve the performance, marketed differently, just other things that may be potential opportunities for it.
Yeah, I think you've the 3 off-balance sheet listed companies that we have a role in. As I say, X Fund is purely a management role. The board is completely independent. The shareholders are independent. And that has a good path, I think, with a more engaged management team and a more engaged board, let's put it that way. On the Select side, I hear you loud and clear. I would just urge you as analysts and investors to look at the NAV versus the share price. So there is a gap there which we can't put our finger on, frankly. The fact is, in our prospectus for those 2 funds, we did speak of being a mirrored fund for the various segments, manufacturing, distribution, and financial. So there is, that we have to follow that prospectus. We can't just divert from it without having discussions with shareholders and so on. But I think, as I said, you'll get more on it as time goes by, but we have some strategies that I think will improve the performance.
All right, thank you for that. I wanted to focus now on the outlook for Sagicor Group. What does the future entail, and what's your outlook for where the company is headed?
So I think, as I said, we are in a good position. We are not risk takers. Our risk appetite is moderate. So you look for steady growth, good dividend returns, and a very sound and stable long-term future for the company. We're focused on keeping our culture strong, finding the best talent and attracting and retaining the best talent that is available here and elsewhere. We have a full digitalization roadmap across all our lines of businesses, and that's a 3 to 5 year roadmap. So it's in place. We have invested. We have other investments that we continue to make. And we're looking at geographic expansion as much as possible. And it mostly will be centered around life insurance in Latin America, for example, building out our Cayman investment business and looking at additional opportunities in investment banking. And as usual, being very opportunistic when it comes to potential acquisitions and or mergers. Commercial banking would be an area that we are focused on to see what opportunities there are to grow through merger or acquisition.
I actually was just about to ask you that question. Do you have any potential mergers and acquisitions that are maybe in the pipeline in the short term?
Nothing that I could speak of on this interview.
Okay. In terms of how you see, so we are now in an interest rate environment that has impacted a lot of things, right? The markets included. How do you see this trending maybe for the next 12 to 18 months? Do you see more of the same? Do you see things, improving on that side? And how will that impact the group?
I think we've started to see improvement in the corporate finance climate, which bodes well for investment banking. Interest rates have stabilized. We do not expect any further increases, but we are a bit cautious in terms of any reductions locally. We expect international reductions to come this year. As I said, our businesses are very diverse and are very, as one does well, another may do not so well because of the macroeconomic variables. So we're well balanced in that way. I'm optimistic about this year, but I don't think it'll be a explosive year in terms of asset prices. But real estate, fixed income, and equities. I think you'll just get more steady and less volatility. That's my view.
Okay.
But I do feel that every asset class has an upside. If you think about interest rates, they have to come down, so bonds will go up in terms of the market value of bonds. Equities will start to revitalize as interest rates come down, and judicious real estate is still a good long-term investment in my view.
Okay. I think that's a perfect segue into...
the best investment? Start your own business.
So that's exactly where we're headed. So we usually close out our interviews with asking a little bit on the personal side. And you did mention owning and operating 3 businesses. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that, right? So let's say that I have a business idea, I'm trying to, or let's say I even have a business and I'm trying to break through to that next level. Maybe that business has plateaued in terms of sales. Maybe I'm not getting the number of customers I'm hoping for. What would be your advice to that person seeking to take their business to the next level?
So I am a big believer in entrepreneurship, as my little joke a while ago would have indicated. It's not for everyone. Even for me, I run the businesses that I am the CEO of as if I am the owner of the business. But, in my terms of my risk appetite, um, I am where I am as a corporate leader. But for those Jamaicans who have an appetite for risk and are willing to take setbacks but regroup and start over, I would encourage entrepreneurship. And in a way, active investments in assets is a type of entrepreneurship, right? Stock exchange, real estate, bonds, etc. Advice is, always have a vision, always have a plan, always be able to take adversity and make it into, an opportunity. Um, Seek mentors, look at what others are doing and stay on top of the industry you're in. Look after your team, find people around you that are solid people who all have the same vision and integrity. I think that is extremely important. Don't look for, ways to get rich quick. It'll come if you put the effort into it, and be there in your business and make sure you are there and know what's going on, and you roll up your sleeves and do the work.
All right, thank you for that. So in terms of your personal investment portfolio, because you are an investor, what's in your portfolio? Is it real estate, equities? Is it local only? Is it overseas? Tell us, about your investment philosophy and how you invest now. You don't have to name companies. You don't have to name any specifics,
No,
of
no.
course. But
So
give us some insight.
I'm as sorry about that. As I said, my risk appetite is at my age and my stage of life is not high, right? So I am in all asset classes. I believe that real estate is about location, 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 and ensuring that you're not looking for the quick win. I don't believe in that in real estate or any asset. I shifted more to fixed income over the past few years away from equities. Clearly, I'm heavy Sagicor because I have a lot of sense, right? And I know what is good. But I'm balanced and I'm risk averse right now. For young people, maybe more risk, maybe choosing stocks locally and internationally that have good growth and good dividend records and good growth potential, and that have strong and stable management team and good governance, would be a good play right now.
All right, sounds good. So in terms of books, personal development, podcasts, what are you reading? What are you listening to right now?
So right now I'm listening to a podcast called Acquired. Ben and David are their first names. It talks about how large companies have grown, failed, improved. I'm listening to one now about Hermes. The other one about, that one about the collapse of Enron, which was particularly interesting. But it really gives you a history. Oh, Warren Buffett and his business with Berkshire Hathaway was another one that really was interesting. So that's what I'm listening to now.
Great, interesting. You're the second CEO that mentioned listening or learning about the collapse of Enron. I don't remember who said it now, but it was a recent interview as well. So I should probably check that out because it's the second time I'm hearing it, maybe in the last 3 months. In terms of,
it has some lessons for us in Jamaica. You know, it has some lessons around the auditing profession, how numbers are presented, um, and ensuring that regulators are on top of what's going on. So,
yeah, we can certainly learn a lot from past events. They have a saying that history repeat itself, and then there are some say that history doesn't necessarily repeat itself, but it may rhyme. So you still can learn from past events and say, how you can mitigate against those same events happening. So good stuff there.
Yeah. So my view is that to really create, best in class markets in Jamaica, we need savvy investors, people who, and your group, for example, is doing their role. More and more of that has to happen. People need to stop just reading the paper and buying on impulse and emotion. A good media, a well-informed journalistic profession that knows about balance sheets and investments and understands companies, etc. Strong regulation. It might be painful, right? It's painful to us in Sagicor, in financial services, but it really sets you on a platform where you can be globally competitive. And I think that's the message. And of course, good auditing, good auditing companies and ensuring that what is presented to the public is real in every case.
Yeah, fully agreed with you. Our aim is to see the average Jamaican and even persons in the region being educated as to the basics of investing. That's why we have free classes every quarter on this channel, for persons to just learn the basics of investing, learn the basics of managing their money. And the reason why we do these interviews is to help persons that just expand their understanding of their investments, right? So if they learn more about you, learn more about Sagicor, then they can make a sound investment decision. And they'll be able to see and think long-term about their investing and not necessarily approach it just by the way of just, going on a whim to invest. So we're aligned there. We do want to see the space improve and, just the more persons actively investing, right? We see a great opportunity there.
Yes, and I think that is awesome, and I just encourage you to continue doing what you do.
Thank you so much. So is there anything that maybe I did not ask you that you'd want to say before we close out this interview?
I just want to say that I'm very optimistic about the future of Jamaica generally. We, as we spoke about, when you're in leadership positions where you kind of can get down because you're not doing everything you could do. But we always have to look at the progress and the good things that have happened and whether you're better off in terms of structure, governance, etc., accomplishments this year versus 5 years ago. And I'm very optimistic about the, business in Jamaica and the growth of Jamaica in particular and the improvement in our society. So I wouldn't be anywhere else.
Awesome. Same. Agreed. Fully agreed. Thank you so much, Chris. It was a pleasure speaking with you. I've been looking forward to this interview. So thank you so much for the time.
Thank you very much, Jermaine. All the best.
Thanks for staying to the end of this episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Be sure to leave any questions for Christopher or the Sagicor team in the comments below. Be sure to check out our other CEO series episodes. We try to have these episodes as often as possible to ensure to give you a view into the mindset of a CEO, to get an understanding as to how the company is progressing, what plans they have moving forward, and overall to help you make a more informed investment decision. So we really value your feedback. Let us know which CEOs you'd like to hear from, and let us know your overall thoughts on this video.
Learning is the key to successful investing, and who doesn't want to invest in some way?
Here at L.E.A.R.N. Grow Invest, we focus on financial education, all with the aim of sharing our knowledge on personal finance, investing, and building wealth. We do this on the foundation of our faith in God.
If a more holistic approach is what you need, check out our Grow Faith-based financial coaching program.
Find out more about us at learngrowinvestclub.com
and follow us on all social media platforms at L.E.A.R.N. Grow Invest.